So we're in the growth phase. But before we do any of that, in order to generate some merit, some spiritual energy for the teachings, so that you get something out of today, because from my side, I won't be giving you anything beneficial. We just look at the text. So we'll recite some prayers together. So in this prayer book, on page 5, we'll recite the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. And then after that, we'll recite the Heart Sutra, which starts on page 9. And then after that, we'll recite some prayers on page 13. And then offer up a mandala, and then take refuge and generate bodhicitta before the start of the teaching. So like that. So just bring your mind into this space now, here, and set a motivation for being here. If you've come in because it's warmer here than outside, then try and raise that motivation. Or if you're escaping noisy neighbours or noisy partners, then raise that motivation. And try and make it for yourself to become a better person. And if you're a Buddhist, then try and make it so that you seek to gain liberation from samsara, and not only for yourself, but for all sentient beings. So try and raise that mind that cares about the sufferings of all the world, and cares about removing that. And then we'll do some prayers after that. So just a little while to set a motivation and calm down. Okay, page 5. So we'll recite these things together. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. when, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like the golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, colour like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 have a devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of thoughts, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The Heart Sutra. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's mountain in Rajgriha with a great community of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train, who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom. the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they teach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly, completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. So if you go to page 13, we'll recite down to the praise to Manjushri. On the top of the page, the first is to the mantra is to the lion-faced Dakini. You see her little image there. I prostrate to the gathering of Dakinis in the 3 chakras, who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Tayata gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. By the teachings of the 3 supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. May they be completely pacified. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector, Manjushri, who holds at his heart the scriptural text symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose understanding shines forth as the sun, unclouded by defilements or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the patient love of a father for his only son, all creatures taught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You, whose dragon thunder proclamation of the Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, whose powerful sword of wisdom hews down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. I entreat you, O Manjushri, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of the Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, all-loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the text that explain them. So the long mandala. And this is on page 14, we'll go in Tibetan. Om Vajra Bhumi Om Shen Se Ji sai shi Om ben za le ke a won ji cha li ko yu gi ko we u zu ri ya bo li ra sha lu pa po lo zam bo li nu ba la che chan da mi ne nu da le pa nga ya da nga ya she yan den da la cho cho da mi ne da mi ne ge da rin bo che li wo pa san ye shi de je ba ma ma pa ye lo to go lo rin bo che no bo rin bo che sam bo rin bo che no bo rin bo che lam bo rin bo che da jo rin bo che ma ben rin bo che da je bo yi bo ba ge a ma te wa ma nu ma ga ma me tu ma di ba ma na sa ma di cha ma ni ma na wa rin bo che do Jole nambara gyawe gyanse Uzu lada mi pa jo pa so so pa ma sa wa me pa San yin yi du uwa di da di shen ca wa deng gyu pa Che pe pa da na ma dang pa na dang ge pra du ya la ma lo zang du guan du jie chang Shen bo la zo gu da jie pa na na xin gang bo wa ju Du jie du we du du xie su su Shen ne gang da so zhu wa ma yu nang ge da da nyang pe san chen tang xie la Tu xie wa jian bo gu nie jing ge la tu su Sa yi pe ge shu xin me tu tam ri la de xi Ni te gen pa di san ge xin du mi te hu wa gi zhuo yun nan da xin la che pa shuo Da gi cha da nyu mo sun ye wu Da nian pa su lu la no hun che che Pam pa me pa pe gi le she ne Du su ran sa de wa jing ye lo Je su la ma dam pa ge nam Ki che ku ka la Gen se chu zin ti Ji da zang be de je se ma la Zai ge che ge cha pa tu zo Yi dan gu ru la na ma da la ga nu ya da ya mi So then, Refuge and Bodhicitta, the prayer on page 20. Sangye chudan sugye chonam na janchu bodu dani kya suchi dagi chenye ngi pe sonangi dola panchi sangye dopa shu Sangye chudan sugye chonam na janchu bodu dani kya suchi dagi chenye ngi pe sonangi dola panchi sangye dopa shu Sangye chodan sogye chonan ma Chanchu badu dani kya suchi Dagi chenye ngibe sonangi Dola panshi sangye drupa shu So maybe just spend a little time trying to develop that sense of going for refuge, and in particular that sense of wanting to become fully enlightened so that we can be of best benefit, most benefit to all sentient beings. Okay, so this is the structure of the day and the rest of the weekend. There will be a tea break in the afternoon, but unfortunately that clock's stopped, and I've only got my mobile, so occasionally I'll be looking to see what time it is, so it might not be exact halfway, but I'll sort it out for tomorrow and put some more batteries in the clock. So basically, in the handouts, you see you've got 2 bits of paper pinned together. So in each part of, there'll be 2 sessions, if you like, and the first session, grab stuff from the front, please. In each session, I'll ask people to read out text and then comment a little bit, but then we can't do all of it. There's too much to cover in an afternoon, so it's about dropping in and dropping out on various bits. But the main part, as far as I'm concerned in any case, is to spend some time in each session using the text as a tool for meditation to develop a sense of what we want to do. So if you look at the 2 meditations that we'll do on these bits of paper, the first one is about, this whole chapter it's a chapter to do with virya in Sanskrit. It's sometimes translated enthusiastic perseverance, or energy, sundru in Tibetan. But it's enthusiastic perseverance doesn't quite cover what it's trying to do. It's one side of it is saying, yes, it's a vast job, but don't feel you can't do it. You know, don't be despondent. Don't think, oh, I can never become like them. You know, it's that if you meet someone who's very, I don't know, if you meet someone who's very pure, very gentle, very kind, sometimes you can think, I've got no hope. You know, I'm kind of crazy with anger and all the rest. That doesn't help us. So one side is going, don't be despondent, don't pull back, don't give up. And the other half of this chapter is sort of pushing us to take up this work, to have a bit of chutzpah about that thing, you know, a bit of kind of force, you know. Yes, I know it's being a bit over the top of what I can actually do now, but I'm going to try for it, you know. Lama Zopa has this in one of his dedications where we do all these things and it ends up by myself alone. It's this kind of, he's taken it from here, that phrasing, that kind of, it's don't be despondent, and also don't get into a kind of passive mode where, you know, oh, may everybody else become Buddhist and may they pick me up afterwards, if you know what I mean. It's about, one is don't be despondent, don't think you can't do it, but there's another side to that, which is having the guts to stand up, walk on, fall down, stand up again, walk on, that kind of, you know, just push, keep on going for it, no matter how far it seems, you know. So like, we've done chapter 6, which is about the difficulties of anger, and you know, every time we get angry, we could think, oh, that's it, I've blown it, I can never do it again. That kind of, you know, if I can't do it perfectly now, then I'll never do it at all. No, just get up, get angry, regret it, move on. Don't get stuck in, oh goodness, I got angry at that moment. And just have that kind of determination to get there in the end, you know. And yes, it does come down to, after a while, if you're a Buddhist, particularly in this text, seeing what we have to develop, you know, that universal love and care for all sentient beings. Not for those ones who I like, but I don't like those ones. All sentient beings. It's going to take more than this life, in my case, that's for sure, you know. But just thinking, even if I move a tiny bit further on, it's still worth it. It's still worth it. So this is what this chapter is about. It's just, you know, I don't know what, there are many phrases, but you know, it's about kind of yomping in military terms. You just hack on through it, you know, or hacking on in horse riding terms. You just do it. or is it Nike? Just do it, you know, one of those. But that thing, we see this as being beneficial to produce this mind of bodhicitta, this focus on others rather than poor pity me all the time, and then we go for it. We try as best as we can, and we don't put ourselves down, you know, oh, I'm not worthy, I can't do these things, you know, just we try. That's all we can do. We can never do anything else but try. But sometimes, speaking personally, I'm my own worst enemy for demotivating myself. You know, something happens and it's like, oh, I'll just give up. And if we do start to believe in future lives, that's not beneficial for me in this life, and it's certainly not beneficial for the people in the next life. There won't be Mike, it'll be something else completely, but there won't be me. But the good things that have happened to me in this life, other people down the line, they set all those causes up, but ripened in this life. So if I just kind of stop and go, okay, you know, that's it, then I don't help them at all, do I? You know? So this enthusiastic perseverance covers both these things of don't think I can't do this. You know, little by little we all can, and the other side is have a bit of front. You know, get up there and pretend to be a bodhisattva while you can. You know, let's face it, life is very short. You know, it's very easy to die, isn't it? You just breathe out, and you don't breathe in. Game over, finished, gone. You know, even today, you know, you could all turn up tomorrow expecting to have Mike and do this class, and I could be dead. I could be dead in bed rotting, you know. And then what do? One of you has to lead the class. I'll try not to die. That was one of my dad's favourite jokes, which pales after a while. He'd say, "Did I come here to die? No, yesterday." Okay, so please would someone read in chapter 7, so hopefully you've all got this text in front of you. Yeah. It's a long read from 7:1 to 7:19. Please could someone read that out. Go for it, have some chutzpah, some front. Thank you.
Chapter 7, Teachings on Joyous Effort. With patience I should undertake joyous effort. Enlightenment will dwell in those who strive. Just as there is no movement without wind, so merit does not occur without joyous effort. What is enthusiasm? It is enthusiasm about virtue. Its discordant classes should be explained. They are laziness, adherence to what is negative, and despising oneself out of despondency. Because of relishing the pleasurable taste of indolence and craving based on sleep, from not being disillusioned with the suffering of cyclic existence, laziness grows very strong. Enmeshed in the snare of disturbing conceptions, you have entered the snare of birth. Why are you still not aware that you have gone into the mouth of the Lord of Death? Do you not see that he is systematically slaughtering your species? Any craving based on sleep is like a buffalo with a butcher. While the Lord of Death is looking, having blocked off every root, how can you enjoy eating? And thus, how can you enjoy sleep? For as long as death is quickly approaching, then I shall accumulate the collections. Even if I were to abandon laziness then, at what improper time? At that improper time, what will be gripped with fear, like that of a live fish being rolled, what need even to mention the unbearable sufferings of hell due to the negativities you have committed? Why do you remain at ease like this, having committed the actions of hell, where your delicate flesh will burn when touched by streams? Much harm befalls those who want results without striving, as well as those sensitive ones. While clasped by death, I shall wail like the gods. Oh no, I shall be destroyed by suffering. Relying upon the human boat, free yourself from the great river of suffering. As it is hard to find this boat later, do not sleep at this time, fool. Having recited the supreme joy of the sacred Dharma, that is an infinite cause of joy, why do you enjoy being distracted by the causes for suffering, frivolous amusements, and the like? Without despondency, I should gather the masses of army and diligently take control of myself. Through equalizing self with others and exchanging self for others, I should not be despondent by thinking, how can I ever attain enlightenment? Thus the Tathagatas who speak what is true have uttered this truth. If they develop the strength of exertion, even those who are flies, mosquitoes, bees, and likewise worms, will win the unsurpassable enlightenment which is hard to attain. Since I have been born human by race and recognize what is beneficial and what is harmful, if I do not forsake the deeds of enlightenment, why will I not attain enlightenment?
Thank you. So, there's a kind of working definition of this enthusiasm, this energy. It's enthusiasm about virtue. And this word discordant classes is a logic term. It means whatever is not virtue. So whatever damages virtue is the discordant. You talk about the concordant class in logic terms, which is the things that are like it or support it, and then the discordant class are the ones that damage it, hurt it. So that's all it is. It's that what damages our efforts in good, if you like, laziness, adherence to what is negative, and despising oneself out of despondency. I mean, laziness, probably most of us can recognize that kind of, or maybe not. This is all a bit hard, I won't do it now, I'll do it later, mañana, dopo domani, that kind of stuff. But the adherence to what is negative, the translation tries to stick very close to Tibetan, but it's one of these things where you have to think, what does that mean? It's this habituation that we have. If we have a habit for, I don't know, it's anything, drinking too much or getting into arguments or finding trouble or whatever the phrase might be, if we have that habit, breaking that habit is really quite hard. That's why it's that kind of adherence. It means being stuck to negative patterns of behavior, unhelpful patterns of behavior, locked into them. And that opposes virtue, because we need that kind of spaciousness and that openness and that brightness to move along the path. And this last one, despondency, despising oneself. It's only recently dawned on me that this text has this, but isn't that the kind of Western malaise at the moment? We don't believe in ourselves. We don't have that. Where we believe we're kind of flawed inherently. We don't believe that we have the capacity to. You meet so many people who are being battered down by things in our society that are just ridiculous when you stand back. You're not a successful human being because you don't have a house, a car, a fridge, a Zanussi washing machine, iPad, things, stuff, and we kind of subtly take these things on. If I don't have all of that stuff, then I'm not, correct. You get it in terms of gender and sexuality. If you're not doing X, Y, and Z, you're not a real woman, or you're not a real man, or what I mean? It's just endless subtle messages, always saying, you're not a such and such, you're not perfect until you buy this product normally, isn't it? And that's what we buy into, subtly. We don't think, oh yes, I need that. But by seeing these messages all the time around us, we start to get those things. And we have to consciously think, hang on a minute, what's important in my life? What is important for me? You know, if I really, 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 really worked for all this stuff, I'm never going to have any time for Dharma, you know, because that requires space, time, sitting down, thinking, these things, you know. If we're just rushing from one to another, to another, to another, collecting, and thinking that we're not good enough, because that's what a lot of advertising is saying, until you get this, you're not good enough, you know. It's not saying you're bad, but until you get this, that, these and those, you're not good enough. And that completely from the advertiser's point of view, of course, you want to sell your product, that's fine, no problem, but we don't have to buy that. We don't have to buy into that mentality that we have of our own inner dissatisfaction, that feeling that things aren't quite right, which in a Dharma sense is that sense, it's our kind of little glimmer that actually there might be something more than just samsara, where we're hurtling around from anger to attachment to ignorance to anger to attachment to anger to ignorance, and there might be something more than that, some different way of being. But that dissatisfaction, normally what we do is we kind of think, not even think, it's kind of, you know, I'm dissatisfied, what will I do? For me, I'll go and raid the fridge, you know. Bit dissatisfied, what should I do? I'll stuff some food in my gullet, you know. But for others, is that I'll go online shopping, or I'll go shopping, you know. I used to hate if I had to go out shopping when I was working in the centre of London. I had to go out food shopping in particular, because there are some people who really like shopping, and you get caught behind them in a kind of supermarket, and they get the basket on, and they suddenly go into slow motion, just. And all you want is that one thing that's beyond them. And so frustration builds up. But I do it in different ways, you know, eating, telly watching, whatever, buying books, you know, just vast amounts of books in my flat, on the floor, in boxes, you know, everywhere. This consuming, this mind that, and we externalize this thing, don't we? We externalize it, and we then think that the external thing will give us happiness. Which, again, when you sit, can't be real, can it? Happiness is a mental state, you know. Happiness is a mental state. It can't be made by Bosch, I'm sorry. It just can't be, you know what I mean? Or Zanussi, or any of them. Or Ryoka, you know what I mean? Just, it can't, physical things, in and of themselves, can't deliver happiness, because happiness is a mental state. You know, I mean, you could, if you're a kind of somebody who believes in scientism, in that sense that the mind is just a product of chemical activity in the brain. But even then, happiness would then require a certain mix of, you know, chemicals to make it work for that moment, and then another mix for another moment. But happiness is a mental state. Nothing physical can deliver it. And you can see that sometimes in friends who, to you, seem to have a lot, but they're not content, you know. Maybe this, when we chase happiness, it's a risk, isn't it? But just that content, what's wrong with being content? You know? Just to be not looking to grab, to grasp, to pull in, and not believing that because we don't have X or Y, that we're inadequate, that we're not good enough, you know. They're really powerful, unhelpful minds, aren't they? That sense of, I'm not good enough. It's self-referential for a start, isn't it? And you know Lama Yeshe's great phrase, poor pity me, you know, I'm not good enough, poor pity me. I'm not worthy, poor pity me, you know, we need, in this chapter it's about no, that's not helpful. Move on, move on. Okay, so then it goes into, and again, there's this thing of, in Tibetan Buddhism and clearly in Indian Buddhism, there are two strong drivers, aren't there? One is that life as we have it, we have life now, but there's no guarantee it's going to be around for much time. So there's always this drive, drink at the well now, because you just don't know how long you're going to have that chance. It's like we come to this center, we receive teachings from Geshe-Tashi, year. He gets promoted, he goes away, and then you think, I kind of wish I'd come slightly more often, rather than choose, Vera over Geshe-Tashi, or another TV's program over, because the stuff that he taught might have been difficult at times, but somehow you can see it had a long-term use, whereas hanging around in the flicks doesn't, passing time. So one is this now is important, because we all, in the back of our minds, we know that we will die. We don't know how we will die, and we don't know when we will die. Actually, I think in our society we should also think, I'm going to get old. What does that mean? Many of us will get old, our health will start to fade, we will become incontinent, we will become deaf, we will be able to see less, we will be much slower. Old age is no picnic. It really isn't. I think it was Gungtang Lama, wasn't it, who said, thank goodness aging comes slowly, because if it happened all at once, we'd just freak out. But you see it if you're looking after elderly relatives. There's less and less dignity in old age as you start getting older. It's no fun. If we take a body like this, though, we have to get old. That's how it is, isn't it? That's how it goes. The other side of the classical Indian thing is this thing of we've done bad things. I've done unhelpful things. I've done bad things. I've put negative traits down in my mind stream, and in a future life they could manifest. They could turn out, and I could end up in a hell realm or a suffering realm like that. And one of the earlier weekends we were talking about whether some people find that energizes them to practice. Others find that it kind of puts them off a bit. So it's very much, I think, about finding what energizes you to do practice. If the fear of hell works, then go for it. But it's a metaphor. All of this is metaphor. It's elusive. It's not, this is how it is. It's trying to point to something that is almost kind of beyond our understanding at the moment, because we're so limited and so locked into anger, attachment, ignorance, all that. We do that all the time, The opposite, that mental state of no anger, no attachment, no ignorance, it's almost unimaginable, isn't it? It's so far removed from where we are. So the point is to find something that energizes us to practice good. What does it mean to practice good? Just simple things, being kind, being gentle, being honest, all these kind of dull, boring things that don't get any news space in the media, but just those things, giving somebody a smile, not biting someone's head off if you're cross, but these things, simple things, helping somebody, not necessarily dragging them across the road when they want to go shopping on the other side, but just that simple kindnesses. The world revolves on simple daily kindnesses, doesn't it? That's what makes the world a pleasant place to live in. Sometimes we tend to have this idea that they have to be big acts of kindness, big acts of generosity, no, just something small, if you watch the way the lamas work, you know, even giving food to animals is done with care and attention and love. You know, whether the animal, you know, giving food to the animal, whether that will help it from its side is another matter. But from our side, if in those moments we are developing a mind of care and love and kindness, then as far as I go, that's fine. You know, that's the job, is to get our minds used to those kinds of things, rather than being used to being defensive, fearful, scared, locked in, uncertain, unsure, put upon, all these things. We can get into a mind that wants to help, even for a moment. That's one moment plus, you know. I used to have a friend, we were in Sera Monastery in India, and we were just visiting, and she smokes. So in the evening she'd be desperate for a cigarette by that time, because of course in the monastery you can't smoke. So she'd say, oh, you know, I think, shall we go for Cora, go for circumambulation around the monastery? And I go, yeah, sure. And the teacher's teacher knew that she smoked as well, so he'd go, oh, are you going for smoke offering then? But then it was really funny, she'd say, you know, okay, we'll go once. Actually, I can't go because you have to go 3 times. Why? But you get this kind of thing, I have to do 3 times, like reciting, taking refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, you know, that Sangha Chidangwa sort of prayer. We recite that 3 times. So you think, oh, I haven't got time to recite that 3 times, so I won't recite it at all. What? What are we doing? Stop it. Once is fantastic. Twice, superb. 3 times, fantastic, unbelievable. You know, Lama Zopa, skyloads of merit. But just even once is good. Even once is better. You know, we do these things so many times, particularly some of the prayers. If Lama Zopa's had a chance of writing them, they're long. You know? And you can think, oh, for Pete's sake, you know. But even if we do half of it one day, a quarter of it one day, even one line, and it means something to us, then it's great, you know. It's better than not doing it. That's how this whole chapter is about that. You know, let's just do it, do a little bit at a time. Do it and love it. You know, don't do it because they feel they have to. You know, and it's all heavy and dark and mean and just no. Even if you just recite and think, oh, I'm really rubbish, I can't do it all, but I can do this bit, and rejoice in it, because just doing that, spending one moment developing a mind that really cares that all beings be free from suffering, or really cares that I be free from suffering first, that my friend really, the intensity of that moment, that's worth its weight in gold. You know what I mean? Because our society is all, particularly now, it seems to be, everybody is very opinionated and very angry, and they hold their views, and it's like, wow, what are we doing? Where are we going with this? Stop it. And you can catch yourself getting into that kind of mind of clinging and just, whoa, no way. You know when you step back and you sit in meditation that cannot be the way. You know it cannot be the way, because it's a tight, grippy mind, you know. Has to be another way. So just one moment, whether it's fear of going to hell or whatever. So, just another thing. 716. This is where these texts get translated, and then we have the teachings and all the rest, and there's not enough time to polish it. But maybe, without despondency, I should gather the masses of army. Maybe we're saying something like, I should muster my forces, would be the way we'd say it in English, you know. It's bring all my energies together and take control of myself. I do like that. Take control of myself, hard though it is. In other words, muster my forces, get a grip, and then through equalizing self with others and exchanging self for others. This is interesting. This is the first hint in this chapter, which is about enthusiastic energy, for what will come in the next chapter on meditation, the chapter on jhana. So the next chapter, not to give the game away too much, if you've read, Tsongkhapa and other people on how you do shamatha meditation, how you calm the mind and all the rest of it, it's technical stuff. The next chapter is very interesting because it doesn't approach it in a technical way. It's talking about stopping being distracted, just, calming yourself down. Then when you're calm, what do? This meditation, this exchanging self with others. That's what it says. So in other words, in this text, in this book, when you've calmed your mind down, do that, because that will be the thing that pushes the whole thing forward really dramatically. And you can see how it can do that, because this whole text is about developing that mind of enlightenment, that mind wanting us to become fully enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. Exchanging self with others is the most powerful technique for that, isn't it? It's not the only one, there are others. But you can see where the force of the text is coming from, where Shantideva's push is. And then there's these quotes. And again, the language could be refined. But basically it's saying, so in other words, it's running on this principle, all beings have the ability somewhere, the capacity somewhere, to become fully enlightened. It's not that some people are able to become fully enlightened and others aren't. Or animals can't become fully enlightened, but humans can. It's every living being, every being with a mind has the capacity, whether it manifests or not is another matter, but they have that ability to become Buddha. For those who've looked at the Buddha nature teachings, that again is coming back down to that course, isn't it? That thing, namaskar. This is all of us have this ability to become a Buddha. Whether we help it or smear rubbish on it, that can never change. It's not an ability we can lose. That's our birthright, if you like, to become Buddha. So we can, and the reason it is in our tradition of Tibetan Buddhism is because at the most subtle level of our mind, the mind is, the most subtle level of mind is unadulterated, it's totally pure, it's totally clean, it's empty of all these other things that block it. That gives us our ability to move along the path. That's our kind of spark, our divine spark, if you like. So all beings have that. So if even flies, mosquitoes, bees and worms, if they develop that wish to, that strength of exertion, if they just hack on through on the path when they become somebody who can work with that, eventually they will become enlightened. So then, since I'm a human, and since I can recognize what's right and wrong, if I just stick with doing the practices that will move towards enlightenment, why on earth wouldn't I become a Buddha? That's basically what that verse, that 719 is saying, I'm a human, I can recognize right from wrong. If I just keep on at it, eventually, because cause and effect happens, I will become a Buddha, that's how it is. Many, many eons away in my case, but, for you tomorrow, who knows? But that's this, and we're starting to move into that sense of, I can do it. It's not impossible. It's not impossible to leave suffering behind. It's not impossible to let go of attachment. That clinging, cloying, mess that causes so many problems. Okay, thank you. So next, if we go from so then next, if someone would like to read from 720 through to 733 on the bottom of page 50. Do you want to get a text? Okay, just resting. Okay. Would anyone read that out? Thank you.
Opinion. Having to give away my legs, arms and so forth frightens me. Response. Without analysing what is heavy and what is light, I am reduced to fear through confusion. Over countless billions of eons, I will be cut, stabbed, burned, and shot and chopped up many times, but I will not attain enlightenment. Yet this suffering, for my accomplishing enlightenment, will have a limit. It is like the suffering of having an incision made, in order to eliminate the harm and pain destroying it inside. Even all doctors eliminate illness with unpleasant medical treatments, so in order to overcome manifold sufferings, I should put up with little discomfort. But the Supreme Physician does not employ such ordinary remedies. With a great procedure to remedy and destroy elements. At the beginning, God supplies the giving of such things as vegetables. Later, having become accustomed to that, one may progressively give away even one's flesh. At such a time, when I have generated a mind that regards my body as being like vegetables, then what hardship will there be when it comes to giving away my flesh? Due to having abandoned negativities, there is no suffering, and due to skill, there is no happiness. Thus mind and body are harmed by wrong conceptions and negativities. If their bodies are happy due to their merits, and their minds are happy due to their skill, then even if they remain in psychic existence for the sake of others, why should the compassionate ones be disheartened? Due to the strength of the mind of enlightenment, he exhausts his previous negativities and gathers oceans of merit. Hence he is said to excel the heroes. So, having mounted the horse of the mind of enlightenment that dispels all disheartenment and weariness, and proceeds from happiness to happiness, which ones who know of this mind would lapse into despondency? The army, for the sake of accomplishing the welfare of sentient beings, are interest, steadfastness, joy, and relinquishment. Interest is developed through fear of suffering and contemplating its benefits. Thus, I should abandon its discordant classes and make effort in order to increase joyous effort. Through the powers of interest, pride, joy, and relinquishment, diligence and mastery, I shall destroy the boundless misdeeds of others and myself. At that time, each of these misdeeds will be exhausted in an ocean of feelings.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, opinion. I'm terrified about giving away my arms and legs. And so two answers come out there, don't they? One is, basically, we're setting this, in this text, it's entirely, we believe, endless lives before, and if we carry on being unenlightened, endless unenlightened lives ahead of us. And those times we will die, we will be hurt, we will be killed, we will be cut up. None of those were done as part of a practice to become fully enlightened. They just happen. Because that's what happens when you're unenlightened. You hang around with people that fight and kill, and maybe not in London, but look around the world. There's plenty of places that are less than jolly. So, if you're doing this practice, in other words, if you're doing this practice as part of your development of generosity in order to become fully enlightened for the sake of sentient beings, then that's a completely different mind frame around that, isn't it? So how do you start with all of this? And there is this thing in Buddhism, as there is in Jainism as well, that the end goal, in which case Buddhism, is not easy. You have to kind of hack on through difficulties. You have to put up with difficulties. You have to work through things. So quite often His Holiness Dalai Lama has just started saying, that you have to put up with difficulties. So if you're trying to follow His Holiness giving teachings in Bodh Gaya, for instance, you have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it start at 3:30, only to see the screen not move at all, and then for some friend to email you 2 hours later saying, oh, it was cancelled. Okay. But also to go to India, to go to India to hear the teachings. I mean, some people really, really like India and they love all that kind of stuff. I hate these kind of mass public gatherings when you're sitting there and it's freezing cold in Bodh Gaya in winter, it's damp, you know what I mean? So you have to hack, you really have to, you're putting a bit of effort into receiving these things, and that matters in Buddhism, that matters in Jainism as well. It's about sometimes going through difficulty will make the mind more receptive for going through the difficulty. It's not give ourselves a bad time, but it is sometimes, if you really want to get this, you have to put up with some discomfort, some difficulty to get there. And so this is the thing about, the sufferings of having an incision made in order to eliminate the harm of pain destroying it inside. It's the old medical thing of bleeding, blood letting. And with doctors eliminating illness with unpleasant medical treatments, there are plenty of those. There are plenty of disgusting tasting medicines, there are plenty nasty things that happen, but at the end result you're cured, so therefore it's worth going through that. And similarly, the other thing, as we live in this modern world, there comes a point sometimes when people who are having cancer treatments and all the rest, and it's been going on for a long time, and they just kind of think, no, actually, I'm not willing to go through being sick every day. I'll go. I'll let the disease take its course. But it's this, if we're aimed at enlightenment and we're aimed at developing this mind of generosity, how do we start? So it says, start with vegetables. And that, I just love the idea of walking down in London, like kind of maybe in the centre of town where there's lots of people begging like that. And you're going along and going, here, have a cauliflower, What? But something that we can give away, in other words, and not regret. This is this thing of, when we're giving, the most important thing is to give, and not, well, two things. One is to give and let go. There have been occasions here where people have given us money, and then they've been so controlling about what we should do because they gave us really quite a small amount of money that in the end we give it back. Because they need to learn to let go, but also it's a nightmare for people at this end. But the other side is when we give, we shouldn't regret. One thing about when Ranjung Neljo Kandrila came last year, this female lama who's an oracle for one of Palden Lama's entourage, and she gave a talk to the volunteers here, and she's really, really practical. So she was saying, when you volunteer, make sure you've got something behind you so that you can give and then not, at the end of it, regret having done it. Don't push and then regret, because the regret removes the positivity, doesn't it, of that gift. So when we give things that we can give. Yes, there's all this stuff in Buddhism about giving your alms and slitting your throat in front of the hungry tigress and all the rest of it. And maybe in a future life, presumably in another world system, since we're going to be tigerless quite soon, I would imagine, but maybe we can do that. But now, give what we can give, physically or in time. Many people just need companionship. They need friendliness. We all need friendliness. But that's also giving of your time, giving of your effort. You don't have to give loads of money, jewels, gold, you know, cars, fancy houses, all the rest of it, or even vegetables, you know. I do not want to come in tomorrow and find a load of courgettes on my desk. There'll be trouble. But we can understand where that's coming from. Give so that you can give. Give so that you can let go and rejoice in that thing. It's a beautiful mind, giving, isn't it? That mind of generosity is a beautiful mind. It's really bright, light, expansive, gold. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. You think of the opposite of generosity, which is miserliness and not being able to let go. It's all, you know, tight, small, graspy little thing like that. It's very, what was his name in the movie? Gollum, you know, my precious, my precious. You know, we don't want to be Gollum. We want to be non-Gollum, you know. But that's that mind, isn't it? The opposite of that clingy, tight, gooey, sticky, cloying mind. All very small and needy and you know. We need to be big. So, and then there's the thing about the kind of qualities of the Bodhisattva. 728. If their bodies are happy due to their merits, and their minds are happy due to their skill in means, the Bodhisattva knows how to act appropriately, or is training how to act appropriately, knows how to act. So it's that. So there's that. The mind is light. It's not tight. It's not locked. Then even if they remain in cyclic existence for the sake of others, which is the job of a Bodhisattva, why would the compassionate ones be disheartened? Yeah.
Does really Bodhisattva know how to act properly? If, for example, you didn't realize emptiness yet?
Bodhisattvas who, okay, yes, no, that's true. So a Bodhisattva who is on the path of Bodhisattva path of accumulation and hasn't realized emptiness, conceptually, I think the conceptual will give you a lot. You don't have to have the direct realization of emptiness before you realize that a lot of what not to do, you know, because it's not. They don't rely on emptiness. The understanding of emptiness will break our habit of believing that something has something that we need, you know. We threw that hallucination out there in the first place, that superstition we put out there. So we throw it out, then we think, oh, I need that. I mean, it's madness, isn't it, when you think about our state of unenlightenment? You know, really crazy. These things are going, there's lots of things happening, and they're happening moment by moment by moment. And as soon as we see it, that moment went. You know, we're on to the next moment. But we cling to that one that's past and our hallucination about that one that's past, and then we think we need that, and it's well gone by that stage, you know. It's madness, absolute madness. You know, we're not living in the moment at all. We're completely fixated on getting our hallucinated essences that we think are out there, or pushing away at those ones that we don't want. But the whole thing is nonsense. You know, it's our projecting, hallucinating, superstitious mind, putting all these essences and these things that we then want or dislike and all the rest of it, because we don't understand that things are momentary. Our life is momentary. Our mind is momentary. It's not that it's like a, you know, what's it? My niece got given this kind of slime ball that you get at Christmas, which kids seem to love. It's not like that and squodgy around to the next day. It flashes into existence and it flashes out again. You know, if you go back to our prayer in the beginning, you know, with the end on page 7. This said, a star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. That verse is taken out of the Vajrakata Sutra. It's at the very end of the Vajrakata Sutra. But that flash of lightning, that's it. You know, it flashes into existence, and the next moment it flashes into existence, and the next. But there's no pudding going along, if you like. There's no continued dollop running along. It's things it's like a TV screen. We give, you know, the images some kind of depth and meaning and all the rest of it, but they're flashing into existence all the time. You know, that's how reality is. But we're reading stuff into it all the time. And then we add emotional stuff onto those essences that we think are there. I mean, unenlightenment is extraordinary, really. How we got into this mess. But yes, you're right. We're here, yeah. It's happening right now. But yes, that the conceptual understanding of emptiness will remove a lot. But also, even before then, I think if you're moving into the Bodhisattva way of thinking, a lot of stuff that's considered normal isn't helpful for us. You know what I mean? I've got a friend who they have a tendency to get they're trying to change their mind, as we all are, but any kind of perceived threat, and just instantly it's the raging dragon coming out, you know, raging dragon. And even as they're doing it, they know that it's not helpful, but the patterning, the habit, is just that it's there, going, before they can kind of rein it back in. And then there's that, oh, I've done it again, oh, you know, all that. But slowly, slowly, he is changing, you know. Slowly, slowly, he is changing. And half of my job as a friend is to go, you know, you are changing. I mean, the famous Venerable Robina story when she was, you know, she went to go and see some guy in prison in America. I can't remember his name, but let's call him Ricky or something like that. So she goes, yeah, hi Ricky, and he's behind the glass in the you know, visitor's bay. And he goes, oh, Venerable Robina, I've really been bad, you know. The person who's stuck in your cell is called the cellie, and your prison cell is called the cellie. He said, oh, I nearly killed my cellie just recently, and you know, oh, it's really bad. And only Robina could come back with an answer like this. She said, oh, it's fantastic, Ricky, because the one before you actually killed him, didn't you? There's been movement, you know, you're going in the right direction. But it's true, you know. Rather than just going, oh my goodness, you know. Yeah. Okay. So the Bodhisattva. Yeah. Yes. One more thing. 731. The army, for the sake of accomplishing the welfare of sentient beings, or the forces I'm going to muster to accomplish the benefit of others, are interest, steadfastness, in other words, sticking with it, joy, really important, joy, you know, that's you know, that kind of classic thing. If you want to benefit others, what is it better to be, joyful or miserable? You know, easy answer, because we all avoid somebody who's a misery. We like people who are joyful. So if you can perk someone's life up, even with a smile or, you know, just a light moment, it's so much better. Joy, really important. Or, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche is always emphasizing now this rejoicing. You know, whatever we do, rejoice in it. Whatever others do, rejoice in it. You know, the fact that, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people over Christmas, just after Christmas, listen to the Dalai Lama give a talk in Bodh Gaya. That's wonderful. It's really nice. There are plenty of things to rejoice in, you know. People who are kind to each other on a daily basis, people who help a stranger, just simple things. There are so many things to rejoice in, but that's a light up energy, isn't it? Whereas, I don't know about you, but in the countryside, quite a lot of people around us voted for Brexit. And as Brexit starts to look more and more like kind of the worst pantomime ever, people are becoming quite angry and defensive and critical of each other, and it's like, that's not going to change Brexit. Brexit's happening, whatever happens there, you can't do anything. Please don't fight in the village with each other and start finger pointing and all the rest, you know, just because it's not going to undo the past, you know, just no matter who did what and who voted for what, just let it go, because if we start going at each other's throats over this thing, then it doesn't benefit anyone, you know. Although I did laugh, because a friend of mine, very strong on voting, you know, yes, I voted for Brexit, and I voted so that these foreigners wouldn't come in, by which they mean East Europeans. So that's been going on for about, I don't know, 6 months or so when I see them. I love them dearly, and then they're having work done on their house, and he said, oh, the builder's not turned up, and they're due, you know, they're meant to ring me today, and they're coming tomorrow. And I said, oh, you know, who are they? Poles. Dzień dobry. I love it. That's the thing I always like about the English. We are totally unable to be 100% one thing. I remember when I worked in the Minavag many years ago, occasionally get dragged in to go to official dinners and people just to kind of make, you know, have someone to chat to. And I got this rather strange German who, after about 2 drinks at the dinner table, was really strong on the fact that how rubbish the British were, because he himself thought that the races shouldn't mix and all the rest of it. And he said, and I meet these English racists and they say, I don't want any blacks. And then they they turn and say, but he's all right because he's my friend. And I thought, thank goodness we have a saving grace, you know what I mean? That we can't be consistent about anything. Okay, so we should have a break, I think, probably. Check the time. Yes, it's good enough. So please have a tea break. And actually, no, sorry, I've done cardinal sin. We're meditating before we have any tea break. So now I've put the idea of tea in your head, your meditation will be rubbish. Sitting there thinking, oh, it's the first day. Okay, so the first one, this meditation. So one of the things I've been trying to share with you is that I think this text by Shantideva is extraordinarily practical and useful. There's so much advice in here. So we can use this text to think, to ponder, to, you know, if you're thinking about hearing and contemplating and meditation, then we can use this a lot for contemplation, but also for meditation. That having thought about these things, then to come up with the end result and stick with it. You know what I mean? So this bit, we've already covered it. What is enthusiasm? It is enthusiasm about virtue. Its discordant class should be explained. It's laziness, adherence to what is negative, and despising oneself out of despondency. Low self-esteem is another one. You know, we have many phrases for these things. I should not be despondent by thinking, how can I ever attain enlightenment? The Tathagatas who speak what is true have uttered this truth. If they develop the strength of exertion, even those who are flies, mosquitoes, bees, and likewise worms, will win the unsurpassable enlightenment, which is hard to attain. Since I have been born a human by race, and recognize what is beneficial and what is harmful, if I do not forsake the deeds of enlightenment, in other words, the practices that lead me to enlightenment, why won't I attain enlightenment? You know, if I just hack on in there and do the stuff. So think about that and use it to develop your sense of self-esteem, that wish to try, and that determination to give it a go. Yeah, use it to bolster that sense of that self-confidence in terms. You know, there's always old Buddhism's about lack of self and all the rest of it, but it's not about lack of self-confidence. Buddhism is based on self-confidence in the sense that we're going for this thing called enlightenment, and it seems so far off. But if we don't have the belief that actually somehow we can get there, then, you know, what's the point? So we have this chance We are humans, we have perfect human rebirth in one sense. Let's try and develop a sense of, yes, I can do this. I can take this forward, yeah? Okay, so just meditating, thinking about those words, and then trying to develop that sense of, yes, I can do this, that kind of confidence to take it up. Okay, now tea time. Did you have a nice time?
Took pictures.
Took pictures. You didn't bring any back for us then?
Yeah. Well,
You see manuscripts or not?
we did, and we also saw from Jamyang cave
Okay.
of the Prajnaparata.
Oh, very nice. Oh, very good.
Just like
Ah, very good. Very good.
and then you've got hopefully we'll for a return. How long is your break?
Oh, sorry, half an hour. Half an hour. So back at whatever it is. 4 o'clock-ish. Ish. No, mine doesn't like it either, actually, at all. Yes. Although it's got used to. Yes, okay. Oh, but yeah, that's great. We can do it tomorrow. Print it off. Yeah. Fine, yeah. Dzień dobry. How are you?
Very good, yeah.
How's my favorite East European?
Very good, you know, still here. Still didn't kick me out yet.
Still
March.
terrifying checks in parks.
Check some calls in between as well. Yeah, I think I'm
Did
ready.
you go back home for Christmas? Are you thinking, what, you think you're going to go home permanently?
No,
Just, I see, okay. Yeah. You've been working.
Work is very big, but I slept 3 hours, but I have to be a little bit different from so I had like 2 weeks. Actually, almost no sleep.
Really?
Yeah, it's so bad. And this week I'm sleeping well, but I just feel like my energy is still up.
Yeah, no, it would be. It would be. You need that. Do you know anyone who can massage you now that Jerry's gone?
Well, I guess just you. I'm riding comfort. I just can't.
No, okay. Yeah, no, go home. Go home and rest.
Yeah, I'll come to the sleep. You're on 7th chapter now, right?
7th chapter, yeah. So take the text with you.
I have. It's actually a rule from translation.
Yeah. No, there are good translations of that, but this is the one they use in the course, so yeah, that's what they'll get asked questions on.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you well? You good?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. It's nice to be up in town for a couple of days.
Yeah, heading back.
Then I'm back at Mum's on Monday. Yeah. Oh, but it's been nice to be up. I was up in the flat last night, and when I got in the flat, it was 13 degrees, so it's a bit cold. But put the heating up and it came up nicely. Yeah, it's good. That's good.
All right.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Sleep well. Maybe have a little help.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm checking next to my corner shift.
You need to get something posh. You need to get something Scotch or something like that.
No, actually, the only thing I could have is like this is really nice small cans of last made up with cola. It's really quite tasty. It's really sweet. I'm gonna find later. Have a bath. See you tomorrow.
Okay, ciao ciao.
If I'm not too young.
finished FPT in 2014 and he started from yeah, so it's 4 years and a half and then not quite 5. Do you know who else has taken it down? No, I thought I'd just
Well, stuff will be done.
God, that chair's panning's going. My panning's going.
right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, lovely translation. It's more powerful. Yeah. Oh,
It's also things I could send it tomorrow.
yeah.
But,
Was it? Yeah. Did we get 5 minutes on the QA?
Okay, so let's start the session just by refocusing and kind of going back into where we are in the text. So if we've been doing this text on a daily basis, we'd have, first 3 chapters, we'd have generated that mind, wishing to become fully enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. Oops, I forgot to put the microphone on. And then we would have looked at the next 3 chapters when we're thinking about okay, whatever. Well. Okay, who knows whether it's working or not. So the next 3 chapters are about protecting that mind, kind of fortifying it, and then we're now starting the section which is about enhancing and expanding that mind. So there's some logic to that process in the sense of it's like when you first grow a plant, your main concern is about trying to get it established, and then it's about growing out from that. So in the same way, we've reached that point where we're trying to grow out our sense of bodhicitta, our sense of mind of enlightenment for the benefit of others. So if we just take a couple of minutes just to try and regenerate that thinking, I wish to become fully enlightened so I can be of best benefit to all sentient beings. Yeah? Okay, so to go back to the text, would someone be willing to read from 7 verse 46 to 7:59, 7 verse 59, so it's pages 52 to 53. It's quite a big chunk. Any offers? Volunteers? Little finger of fate time? Yes, please. Thank you. Verse 46. Therefore, I should be interested. And we finish at 59. Whoever seizes pride.
Therefore, I should be interested in virtue, and with great respect acquaint myself with it, having undertaken through the procedure of Vajradhamma. I should cultivate pride. At the beginning, having examined the endowments, I should either undertake it or not undertake it. It is best not to undertake it, but once I have undertaken it, I should not withdraw. I will familiarise with that in other rebirths, and negativities and sufferings will increase. Also, others in the time of the result will be inferior and will not be accomplished. A pride to the three actions, afflictions, and ability. Thinking, I alone shall do it, is a pride of action. Afflicted, powerless beings in this world are unable to accomplish their own welfare. Migrating beings are not able like me, therefore I shall do this. If others are doing inferior work, why do I sit around? I do not perform it out of pride. It would be best for me to have no pride. When encountering a dead snake, even crows will act as though they are quarters. If I'm weak, I should be harmed by even small downfall. How do the faint-hearted, who have given up exerting themselves, find liberation from destitution? By generating pride and exertion, even the great will find it hard to overcome me. Therefore, with a steady mind, I shall overcome the downfalls. If I am defeated by downfall, my wish to be victorious over the three realms will become a joke. I will conquer everything, and nothing at all shall conquer me. I, son of the lion-like victor, shall dwell in this pride. Any migrating being is destroyed by pride. Afflicted, he has no pride. Those with pride do not succumb to the power of the enemy. They have come under the power of the enemy of pride. Inflated by afflicted pride, I shall be led by pride to bad migrations. It destroys the joyous festival of being human. I shall become a slave eating the food of others. Stupid, ugly, feeble, despised everywhere. Tough people inflated by pride are also included among those having pride. Tell me, what is the inferior like? Whoever seizes pride in order to conquer the enemy of pride, he is the one having pride, the victorious hero. Whoever definitely destroys the rampage of this enemy of pride completes the results of victor in accordance with wishes of migrating beings.
Thank you. Okay, so there are two kinds of pride comes out of this. The afflicted pride, which causes us problems, and the pride which is a self-confidence, that kind of pride that says, I'll do this, I'll make this happen, I'll go for it. So if we look at afflicted pride, there's a whole range of things. In English, the word pride doesn't cover half the meanings that are in Tibetan and presumably in Sanskrit. I don't know about Sanskrit, but the word that's Nagya in Tibetan, so literally it's got two bits, Nga-I and Gyal King, or I, a leader. And when it's afflicted, it's a sense of being superior to people, or portraying yourself as superior to people. So there are classic things that we do. You know, we a lot of the behaviours that we do come into it. So, as I was saying to the Queen only yesterday, you know, so you know that I hang around with the, you know, the top of the shop, or you know, as a scholar and a Buddhist practitioner, you know, as a sincere practitioner, we do that. There's that kind of pride. That if we're not careful, we can do that, particularly as you start to know more about Buddhism and you start to, you know, you realise that you do know something about something, then the risk is thinking you know everything about that something. Whereas the whole point of Tibetan Buddhism, and Tantric practice in particular, is to tell you that you've got it wrong each time. But there's that kind of bigging yourself up more than you are, you know. This is Mike Murray. Actually, he's aging, sickness and death incarnate, you know, but there's you know, that kind of I the aristocrat, you know. There's that kind of arrogance, that puffed upness. But there's also a downside to that, which doesn't really get covered by the English word pride, which is, I'm the worst person in the world. I'm so awful. Unbelievably awful, you know. Hitler has nothing on me, you know what I mean? Stalin, nothing on me. And that negative view of I'm the worst person in the world also counts as pride. and when this range of meanings is being taken under this term. So both of those do not help us. Bigging ourselves up and doing ourselves down don't help. But there is a kind of pride, which is that self-confidence, that being willing to step up to the plate, being willing to take it on, being willing to do it. You can see in verse 49 where Rinpoche got, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche got this, by myself alone. Thinking, I alone shall do it, is the pride of action. Afflicted, powerless beings in this world are unable to accomplish their own welfare. Migrating beings are not able, like me, therefore I shall do this. That's a pride. That's a confidence. Whether it's a valid confidence at the moment, but it's a confidence. It's chutzpah, you know. You have some. You're going to make an effort. You're going to step up and do it. It's not, may all sentient beings be happy, may I hang out, and may other people do the work. Not like that. I myself will make this happen. You know, when we do the four immeasurable thoughts, which aren't in this prayer book, are they? So, and there's the short one where we go, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from suffering, may all beings never be separated from true happiness, and may they treat each other with equality. But the slightly longer version, which has a nice tune to it in Tibetan, is, wouldn't it be wonderful if all beings were happy? And then it's you move from, oh how wonderful, to actually this really must happen, this really must come about. And the next one is, I myself will make this come about. And then the last one is, please Buddhas and Bodhisattvas help me to do this, because you realize that you yourself need a bit of inspiration and energizing to make that come around. And you do that for all of the, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful if all beings were happy? You know, we can all buy into that one. Yeah, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful if all beings are happy? And actually, when you think about it, that should happen. That's kind of almost like they're right. All beings should be happy. And who's going to do that? I myself. How can I expect anyone else to do that? So there's a very good progression going on there. And also the nice thing at the end where you realise you do need a bit of help in the process, because, you know, that moment when you're going, may all beings be happy, may well be followed by, you know, another moment. But again, all these things, you know, we think about this mind of bodhicitta, this mind wishing to become fully enlightened so that we can be of the best benefit to all sentient beings. All sentient beings. Why do we care about all sentient beings? Because we've developed that mind that wants all sentient beings to be happy, wants all sentient beings to be free of suffering, wants all sentient beings never to be separated from true happiness. So these four immeasurables, they're almost like our precursors to the mind of bodhicitta. That's when you realize that it's going to take some work, in your own, well, and speaking of myself, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from suffering. Really? I can hold that for a brief moment, and I can hold that, in the countryside, you can hold that for a whole day, because you meet nobody. There's birds, and the deer come through the garden, and it's all very nice, and there are, red kites flying in the sky. But in London, may all beings be happy. It's very quick that somebody comes right in your face, just somebody's rude, or they barge through in the tube, or, many things that really test our may all beings be happy. But we need to do that because we can never do that next step of bodhicitta until we have that. And that's, for me, one of the reasons why within the Mahayana system of Buddhism, you must have reincarnation, because it's simply not possible to turn the boat round that quickly in one lifetime. You need that sense of working slowly to get that thing of make all beings be happy. Just that one. Forget all these, miraculous concentrations and all the rest of it, but just that motivational thing. So this is the good pride. The pride thinking, I want to do that. I want to become a fully enlightened Buddha. I mean, that's it's heresy actually in Christianity, isn't it? To want to become God is heresy. But in Buddhism, in Mahayana Buddhism, you want to become Buddha because you see that as being the most beneficial thing for beings. They say, I don't know, but they say that a Buddha can read minds. So rather than me sitting here going, there's 15 people in the room and I have no idea what they need, what they want, what's useful for them, and I just sort of throw stuff out. If I was a Buddha, I'd go, oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, and you knit it into your discussion. That would be a phenomenal skill to have, wouldn't it? Just to know what's useful to someone at that particular moment on their path, rather than just kind of whatever. So that wish to become fully enlightened Buddha, that's pride. That's got some oomph to it. That's a good pride. That's a self-confidence. It's not overestimating your ability. We do have the ability to become Buddha. The trouble is that we tend to keep on not doing it. but we can do it. It is possible. You can see that it's possible just logically. You can see that these things are possible. It's a bit like the whole tantric thing of this deity yoga thing where you try and hold the image of the deity all the time, 24/7, in your mind. And if you've received higher secret tantra, you take on you kind of adopt the persona of a Buddha 24/7. Now, it's all very well in theory, and you can see how it works in theory, but the practice of replacing my Mike, poor pity me, unenlightened Mike, aging, sickness, death, with, in this space, that's gone, and there's a fully enlightened being working solely for the welfare of all the people I meet. I can hold it for about 1 second in meditation. I can't do it outside in the street. But you can see that in theory, if you can hold it for 1 second, you can do it for 2, you can do it for 3, and then you can hold it when you get up off the seat. But, that's pride, to take these practices on. Just even to, forget Buddhahood, even to wish, in this life, may I end up my life as a calmer, kinder, less self-centered, more other-centered person. actually, to me, that requires a lot of guts, because our society doesn't support that. Our society says what you need is a fast car, fancy shoes, and a big sofa. You know? There's that great phrase I nicked off the internet somewhere where somebody said, no one is going to stand up at your funeral and say, she had a great dress and a fantastic sofa. Don't make your life about stuff, you know. It's people that matter, it's beings that matter, it's our relationship with them that matter. Just to go, it's not that we're all evil beings, it's not that at all, but to want to become a better person in this life, that requires guts, because we don't get the support of our society. There's not that support there. You know, there are religious people, and sometimes they're not the best examples of kindness and generosity, you know what I mean? But generally, our society is very materialist, very stuff-orientated, and particularly in our modern world, it's about mobile phones, isn't it? You know, that whole digital detox thing. We go away, we check our phone. We go back, we check our computer on a desktop, or we check our laptop, we watch television, we talk to people. There's constant activity, constant demands to interact. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience when you kind of go online and you just, an hour later, you've followed various things and you've done nothing with your time, but an hour has gone. You're 1 hour closer to the wall of death, you know, but nothing can come out of it. Or you've had that discussion, you know, where you're kind of chatting away and it's all very meaningful, and at the end of it you think, what are we talking about? Normally, when you're younger and you're over a bottle of wine and sorting the world out, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, but nothing has happened. But if we have that guts to say, I want to become a better person, I want to become kinder, I want to become more generous, I want to become more stable, you know, not battered by this and battered by that and upset by this and upset by that, but kind of more easy and chilled, you know. That's good work, and that takes guts in this society, it really does. Okay, so these two kinds of pride. Now, here we are. So now we get on to, from 760 through to actually to the end of it, 776. Who will offer their life in giving that? And I look at Francesca because you put your hand up earlier. Thank you.
To when? 60?
So 760 right through to the end. Yeah.
When amidst the class of afflictions, I shall be persistent with them in 1,000 ways, like a lion among foxes and the like. I will not be injured by the haste of afflictions. Just as man will regard their eyes in the occurrence of great danger, likewise I shall not come under the power of the afflictions, even when danger occurs. It would be better for me to be burnt, to be killed, or to have my head cut off, rather than bowing down to the enemy of afflictions. Likewise, in all situations, I should do nothing other than what is fit. Just like those who desire the pleasurable result of play, this Bodhisattva adheres to whatever task he may do. He is not satisfied by it, it makes him happy. Although people work in order to be happy, it is uncertain whether or not they will be happy. But how can those whose work itself is happiness find happiness without doing the work? If I am satiated by desirable objects, which are like honey smeared upon a razor's edge, then why am I satiated by merit, which is ripening in pacification, in happiness? Thus, in order to complete this task, I shall engage in it, just as an elephant tormented at midday enters into a lake. When my strength is related to degeneration, I I should leave whatever I am doing in order to return to it. If something is finished well, I should put it aside, with the wish for more and more later. Just as a seasoned soldier engages in a fencing battle with the enemy, so shall I avoid the weapons of the afflictions, and attack the enemies that are the afflictions. If someone dropped his sword during a battle, he would quickly pick it up out of fear. Likewise, if I lose the weapon of mindfulness, afraid of power, I should quickly retrieve it. Just as poison spreads throughout the body, independent upon the blood, likewise, if it finds an opportunity, misdeeds will permeate my mind. Just as a man carrying a jar full of mustard oil in the presence of someone wielding a sword, who is being threatened that he will be killed if he spills it, it will be frightened. Likewise, those who have the modes of conduct should be attentive. Therefore, just as I would hastily stand up, if a snake came into my lap, likewise, if any sleep or indolence occur, I shall quickly turn them back. Each time a misdeed occurs, I should deride myself, and then contemplate for a long time. No matter what, I shall not let this happen in the future. Likewise, in all situations, I shall acquaint myself with mindfulness. With this cause, I shall wish for encounters or appropriate actions. In order to have strength for all, I should recall before undertaking any action the advice on conscientiousness thus, and then rise with lightness. Just as the wind, blowing back and forth, controls a piece of cotton, so shall I be mastered by enthusiasm, and in this way I will accomplish all.
Thank you. So, we've had the encouragement to not pull back, not say, I can't do this, it's too much. And we've had the encouragement to say, to believe that we can do it, to take it on, in our own way, in our own time, but to take it on. And now, what's the job? It's these pesky things called afflictions. and they're not out there, they're in here, they're in our minds. It's our unhelpful mental habits, our unhelpful mental propensities. That's what we're dealing with. When we get into an angry situation, or somebody is angry with us, there are always choices, aren't there? In theory. In theory, there are always choices. Someone bellows at us, whether with reason or without reason, there's, in theory, a choice whether that we either engage with that and give back, or we pull away from that and say, hang on, if I do that, I then just dig the trench in my own mind with this tendency deeper, even more deep. So the afflictions, the battle is with the afflictions. The battle is not with external things. This particularly in Mahayana, So if if you think of the three scopes of the path, advice generally on the kind of lower scopes is about taking yourself away from situations and strengthening the mind. Pulling, if you know that you're going to get in trouble with your own afflictions kicking off in a certain situation, you pull away from that. You don't go there. It's an external type thing. And of course you try and deal with them. The Mahayana has a slightly more engaged approach, because it must be, because you're working, who's going to give us enlightenment? Who's going to give us patience, for example? Others, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's others. Who's going to allow us to be generous? Others, All these, the mental, even though they're mental states, we still need the kind of interaction with others to make them come to fruition. So, similarly, when we're dealing with afflictions, in Mahayana, the engaging with others we have to do, in a sense, because our job is to help others. But at the same time, our own internal nonsense will kick off with others. That's as sure as, being an enlightened, that's how it is. But our job is not to pull away from them, but to deal with our own nonsense. So it's actually kind of harder in a sense, because it doesn't mean you can't go away like on a retreat and do 7 days on loving kindness and then come back into the world. But you must always come back into the world, because the job of Mahayana Buddhism is to help others. Help yourself in order to help others. There's always that, and the driver is actually the other way around. I really, really, really want to help others in a meaningful way. How do I do that? I have to sort myself out first, to give myself the skills to do that, and also to stop, even unintentionally, causing problems for others. That thing where sometimes with the best will in the world we get involved in something, and then later on we think, actually I really shouldn't have got engaged because I didn't come in with a wise head on, and came in with an emotional, clingy kind of way, and it just wasn't beneficial in the end for people. These afflictions, so it would be better to be burned, to be killed, to have my head cut off, rather than bowing down to the enemy of the afflictions. In all situations I should do nothing other than what is fit. So if you think, going back to, I keep on going back to this short phrase, but it's a very useful thing that Rinpoche has done, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has done this. May my mind become Dharma, may my Dharma become the path, and may my path be free of obstructions. There's something like that, I can't remember the exact words. May my mind become Dharma means, may I do good. May I do good deeds. And there's a back end to that, which is may I stop doing bad. So it's that basic karmic thing of starting to give a direction to our life that's going in a positive way. May my Dharma become a path to liberation. So you can do good, and in the Buddhist worldview, those things will ripen as, if you give, you get wealth in a future life and all the rest of it. You're beautiful and people will love you and all these kind of, there's lots of this stuff, but you aren't liberated. Liberation is about dealing with ignorance and what comes out of ignorance, which is that neediness of grabbing things towards us, or that needy of pushing away. They both come out. Anger is that pushing away. Attachment is that dragging towards us. And they both come out of an ignorance that doesn't understand the reality of who we are and the reality of everything else that we experience. We put out essences. So that's when we turn our Dharma, our goodness, or whatever you want to call it, our good practices, into a path that leads to liberation. We deal with the afflictions. That's our job. But of course we know that that's difficult. But the next one is actually even more difficult, but kind of interesting. May my path be free of obstacles. How do you get free of obstacles when you realize, and earlier on in this text, there was that thing of recognizing sentient beings as the most precious thing because they will give you enlightenment. Working with them will give you enlightenment. So unlike being Mike Murray and meeting someone who's really, really angry and frustrated and worked up and thinking, oh God, I wish I wasn't in this room with them, you'd come in and you'd think, how fantastic, an opportunity to develop patience and loving kindness that will lead me on the path to enlightenment. So if you have that mind, when you meet every single sentient being, then there are no obstacles, are there? Because each time there is a management opportunity, or whatever the phrase is, at work, you think, wow, here's a chance to develop patience, to develop enthusiasm, to develop generosity, to develop the morality of not harming. this person, appearing as a raging nutcase, is giving me this opportunity to develop. How fantastic, how wonderful, and there's that joy that goes into it. And you can see these things with Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe before him, these amazing stories of the early days in Kopan before they became kind of, it all became very organized, and they're up in this little monastery with a tent in front of it in Kathmandu Valley, and Lama Zopa's on the throne teaching day after day after day about the hell realms and the suffering of the hell realms, and then there's people standing up and talking rubbish and all the rest of it, and then Lama Yeshe is standing up and saying, sit down, he knows what he's talking about, shut up, and they're all kind of kicking off like this. But Lama Yeshe had this strong thing that I don't really care whether someone loves me or hates me, as long as they interact with me and we make a connection, because later on I can draw them out of samsara. Very interesting. And Lama Zopa can be the same. You can see there's just keeping on. But the connection is there, and love him or hate him, you're trapped. You're on the end of that hook, and gradually he will draw you out of samsara. It's very interesting to watch how those two worked. And Lama Zopa still does. May my mind become Dharma, my Dharma become a path, and my path become free of obstacles. Even if someone is kicking off, particularly Lama Yeshe, the other thing that would really upset people was if somebody kicked off at him in a public talk, which doesn't happen, didn't happen after a while, obviously, because it all became much more kind of regimented in a sense. But in the early hippie days, someone would be shouting at Lama, and he's sitting on the throne going, oh, thank you so much, dear, thank you so much, that's so kind of you. And Lama means it. He means, you're giving me a chance to see my mind and to see what's there, what's happening. He really means, thank you so much, thank you. But of course, the response when you're angry and someone goes, oh, thank you so much, it's so kind, really kind of what you're doing, it's just, hang on a minute. Very interesting the way they worked, isn't it? We're much more square now. If you see them, some of the, like Dr. Adrian, who's a kind of long-standing monk in Australia now, and very kind of venerable and very respected and all the rest. And that I remember they showed some pictures of the kind of early FPMT people, and he and 4 others were in Afghanistan. This is before all of that kicked off. In Afghanistan, and they decided they wanted to go to Pakistan, so they built a boat. And they got on the boat and they went down the river into Pakistan. Dr. Adrian at that stage was very tall, and he had long blonde hair, and he's kind of like Jesus Christ's better looking younger brother. It's just these complete hippies, just dressed in kind of kaftans and all the rest of it. And just amazing people who somehow connected with these lamas who were willing to deal with them. Because, I mean, the Tibetans generally are quite traditional and quite square, and these lamas are going, oh, I can work with these people, these hippies, and it's amazing the way they connect, the way they work. Any case, sorry. Just, our job is to deal with the afflictions, and the afflictions are our own, our own. So when it's a really uncomfortable situation, later on we look and we go on the meditation seat, why was that difficult for me? What was going on there? If we're going to kick off, it is better to get out of the room, to be honest, unless we have to stay there. But later on we can think, why was I reacting in that defensive way? Why did I feel there needed to be, you can check these things out. There'll be many different reasons why. Because of our past conditioning. We're not all blank slates. We come in to any situation with all of our past history behind us, and all of our past history and our events have created this sense of who we think we are. Me, I myself, Mike, the personality of Mike. And if things put pins in it, I don't like it. And if things you know, put nice smooth oil on the outside of it. I love that, you know. But we need to check these things, and the meditation seat is an ideal thing. You know, at the end of the day, they say, maybe do 21 Bodhisattva recitations, and you visualize Bodhisattva, and light pouring down. But at the same time, you can also just think, how did it go today? You know, what was it like? Did it